Hello, everybody, and welcome once again to Fractured Realities. This is part two of my political rant, my issues with politics. This is where I pick on the left wing or the liberals. And there's a lot to cover here, but I'll try to keep it brief and stay on point. First of all, the Democratic Party, which a lot of people don't know the history of, was in fact formed by those who opposed slavery and those who wanted big government and more economic intervention in with the citizens. Um, they wanted the government to pay for everything. They wanted to keep slaves. They fought against civil rights. They fought against women's right to vote. Okay, sometime around the time of the New Deal in the 1940s or 1950s, perhaps, the Democratic Party became the party of the people. Um, they decided that I think basically it was a ploy for more votes, personally. But the things that the let's call them the Kennedy-esque Democrats, which my parents were. My dad was a Union guy. He would have voted for Satan if Satan was a Democrat. Believed that the Republicans were all big business and were going to raise his taxes through the roof, which the Democrats did anyway. Um, Believed in workers' rights, which is a good thing. Civil rights, which once again is a good thing. We're all fucking equal. Freedom of religion, freedom of speech. Those were all liberal principles that I could live with, things that I thought. I thought that the Democrats were the be all end all. Well, hell, they're for the people. They're not just for the rich people. See, that's the narrative once again. The Democrats good guys, Republicans bad guys. That's what I grew up hearing. When I was 18 years old, the first person that I cast a vote for was Bill Clinton. Well, I met him. He showed up at the airport by where I went to school, Aviation High School, when I was a senior. Four G4s, multi-million-dollar planes pulled up. And the third one that pulled up, Bill Clinton pops out, bigger than life, walking around, shaking everybody's hand, smiling. This was actually the second time I met Bill Clinton. The first time I met him, my parents were very involved in the Democratic Party. Um, my mom was a council aide. She was the aide to a councilman in Cleveland back in the 1980s. She was a precinct committee person. She went to several different fundraisers, things like that for the Democratic Party. One time she was actually invited to sort of I believe it was some sort of Democratic fundraiser, or I'm not sure exactly what it was, but it was at the governor's mansion. The governor at that time was Dick Celeste, a Democrat. And they decided to take me and actually one of my friends, Mitch, who was growing up. Of course, we were young, sort of thuggish kids. It was probably not the greatest idea to take us. We didn't get in any trouble, but man, the opportunities were there. But some of the, star-studded event. Jane Fonda was there. John Glenn, the astronaut. Bill and Hillary Clinton. This was, before Bill was going to run for president, but a couple years before. And I have to say, not all of them were bad people. Bill Clinton was a cool dude. He walked around, shook everybody's hand. He shook my hand. We sat there and had a conversation. The lieutenant governor's daughter at the time, Lee Fisher, I can't remember his daughter's name, but she was just a gorgeous fucking girl, knockout. Probably still is to this day if I looked it up. But yeah, I looked over there, checked her out, evening gown, beautiful girl, jewelry, hair done to the hilt. And don't quote me, but I swear one time I looked over there and there's Bill looking, checking her out. She was about 16, 17 years old. Gorgeous girl. So, me and Bill had that moment. Our eyes locked and we're like, oh, yeah, yeah, I'd smash that. You know, had that little Bill Clinton grin, you know. And I kind of thought he was, a charming dude. I mean, he lied about smoking pot, which was stupid. He lied about getting a blowjob in the office, which was stupid. I personally never gave a fuck about that. See, but the whole thing with the left wing has become more neocon. You had the Alinsky Communist Manifesto during the 1960s, who Hillary Clinton was a big student of Alinsky, and he wrote the Handbook for Radicals, I believe was what it was called. She was a big fan of his. He was a definite communist, and this is when the communist element started to creep into the Democratic Party. And the whole time I was growing up, people talked about the great People's Revolution and the Bolshevik Revolution like it was a good thing. Che Guevara, like he was a hero, a liberator of Cuba from the terrible capitalist oppressors. Well, if you talk to anybody who lived in fucking Cuba, which I had several friends, Che Guevara was a fucking monster. He killed literally about 30,000 people, which would have been about a fifth of the population, him and his death squad, which he was personally a part of. He was not only a guy ordering the hits, he was actually literally involved in the killing of other people. He was also a rapist. Not a hero by any means, but he's been portrayed as a hero, been portrayed as a liberator. Well, when people were living under capitalism or sort of military rule, it wasn't exactly capitalism as we know it. They had a better form of life. They had a middle class in Cuba. They didn't have problems. Not only did Che help destroy that with communism, which has taken numerous lives over the years, over 100,000. Che was a racist. Che did not like the black Cubans, the ones that were brought over by slaves to work the sugarcane fields. He was more into the Spaniards because Che actually he was from Venezuela. He had Spanish blood. He, wasn't, his father was actually a legitimate Spaniard, a European. But anyway, he was evolved as a hero. I mean, even his cousin account, who glorifies him to no end, told about him because he was also a rich boy. I don't know if a lot of you know that, but he lived on a sort of plantation. They had people who worked for him, and one of the people who worked for him was a 14-year-old girl. Well, when he was 16 years old, he, as his cousin put it, was so vigorous with his love and that he took her right there on the table. Well, that sounds kind of rapey to me. So not only is this guy a murderer, but he's a rapist. And if you look back at the whole foundations of communism, well, you could trace it back to the French Revolution, which turned into just a bloody massacre of hundreds and hundreds of people. Or you go to the Bolsheviks, which turned into the starvation or something. Pol Pot in Cambodia, which ran the Khmer Rouge, which killed thousands of people. Che Guevara killed literally a fifth of the fucking population of the island of Cuba. That would be the equivalent of somebody killing about 100 million Americans. If you go with the demographics of what we have in our country as opposed to that. And Joe Stalin, the absolute biggest mass murderer and monster of all times. These are your heroes. These are your communists. These are the ones that a lot of the liberals, not all, a lot of the liberals is face. But still you pretend to be for the people. How is a communist society really for the people? I mean, it's a great hippie dream that everybody doesn't have to work, everybody gets free this, free that, free education, but in the end, it never works. Venezuela, case in point. Look at the socialized system of Venezuela and what a fucking wreck that is. It's always a horrible deal for the people. It might start off great in utopian light, but it never ends that way. So this whole communist, socialist, progressive doctrine that the left wing seems to follow, they just don't know history, or else they don't care. I mean, and you have so many militant groups that have rose from the Democratic Party. I mean, we're talking about the Ku Klux Klan was started by the Southern Democrats. Black Lives Matter, which started off with good intentions, but then you got militants involved. Then you have Antifa, who oppose free speech. You're not allowed to have your thoughts because they believe somewhere deep down inside that if you are allowed to speak freely about your opinion, somehow you're going to become a Nazi and kill 6 million Jews. Okay, and let's talk about Nazism. Let's talk about Hitler for a moment. The most hated person on earth. Well, Hitler was a student of Karl Marx. Hitler was a communist of a way. He was a national socialist. He was a localized communist, not a global communist. Okay, so you're talking about, if you want to call people Nazis who are right wing, you're way off. You don't understand history, because fascism or Nazi or National Socialism started as a left wing doctrine, not right wing. So let's get it straight. Okay, both parties started basically as one party. It was actually at one point called the Democratic Republican Party, and they fought against the Federalist Party, who were still wanted to bring back the monarchy from England, but they separated because of their views on slavery. The Republicans opposed slavery, where the Democrats were pro-slaves. And there's a lot more nuances to it. I'm not going to go into a full history lesson. Check out Stefan Molyneux. He explains this beautifully, a lot better than I can. The man's much more educated and much more articulate than I could ever dream of being. So yeah, definitely check out Stephen Molyneux in Free Domain Radio for a true education about communists and your heroes. But how can you call yourself the Democrats were always free speech advocates, but somehow that got lost in the 1980s when Alan Tipper Gore started the PMRC. All of a sudden, they became sort of the oppressive party. They wanted to tell you what you could and couldn't listen to. Now they tell you you can't say certain things because you hurt people's feelings. It just doesn't make sense. Words do not hurt people's feelings unless you're physically reacting against somebody in gun control. More people are stabbed to death. More people are ran over by cars than are shot with guns. And the gun control has been tried. I'm not going to talk about this at length, but the gun control issue has been tried in Chicago. There's more deaths by guns. The guns are here. You're not going to control fucking guns. You're not going to control people's thoughts because it doesn't fit your fucking narrative. You're not going to you can't run up and punch everybody and call them a fucking Nazi because they don't believe what you say. See, the left wing started off, I would say the Kennedy Democrats were great people, working class. They supported workers' rights, the poor, the middle class. There's nothing about that now. It's all about social programs. What can I get for free? What can I do? Guess what? The world doesn't owe you a fucking thing. The world does not owe you free medical care. The world does not owe you a free education. Somebody has to fucking pay for that. Guys like me who have 2 jobs have to pay for that. That comes out of somebody's salary. Now, I've lived my entire life and never taken a fucking dime from the government, nor will I ever. Because why? The more you take from the government, the more the government controls you. You don't believe that? Go drive to any projects, any housing development, anywhere. What do you have in those housing developments and those projects, those big experiments in socialism? You have armed police or armed security going around enforcing the laws. Not much different than the fucking military control that you have in communist countries. Smaller guns, perhaps, but yeah, it's the same deal. They are enforcing the laws at the point of a gun. You don't follow those laws, you get kicked out. It's very regulated. Now, if you're on welfare and you're reported, they could cut off your welfare. They could take your children away from you. Once you become part of that system, that megalithic fucking structure of free money and power over you, just think about it for a moment. Do you really want somebody else controlling every aspect of your life? Because when you take and you take and you take from the government, they control you. You're a number. You are a note in their book. You're a number. You're a vote. You're not a person. Those are the problems that I have with the Democratic Party, so to speak. Don't tell me I can't fucking say what I want to say. Sometimes I might say things that hurt people's feelings. That doesn't make me racist. That doesn't make me sexist, misogynistic, homophobic. It's ridiculous. Just automatic name calling. You don't go by facts. You don't study history. You stick to your narrative 100%. And that's what is destroying the Democratic Party. That's why Hillary got her ass kicked. That's why Bernie would have, if Hillary wouldn't have screwed him over, would have got his ass kicked as well. There will never be a socialist or a communist elected as president. The majority of the population, middle America, doesn't want that bullshit. Maybe in big cities or very liberal areas like where I grew up in Cleveland, they're all about it, but not everywhere. Here in Montana, that would never fly. You'll have a fucking armed revolution. We will not go to a socialist government. We will not go to a communist government. Sure, there are people out there who need help. I don't have a problem with people who need help, but I do have a problem with people who live generation after generation after generation sucking on the fucking teat of government. That's bullshit. If I work, you should work. If you are physically capable of doing a job of creating physical labor and adding to the economy, do so. I lived, well, now we have mild socialism in our country. We're still basically a capitalist society, but we have modern socialism. Modern socialism is okay within reason. Help those people that need to be helped, yeah. I don't want to put the mentally handicapped out there to starve to death. I don't want to see single mothers with their kids begging for money in the street. No. But when I see every 18-year-old kid out of high school walk up with a fucking food stamp card, somebody's paying for that. I'm paying for that. That's bullshit. That's not the way it should be. We all do for ourselves. So, get out of that. The government owes me something. Somebody owes me a living. And then let's go back to the whole social justice warriors. Okay. Open borders, open immigration, a mixed society. Why does a mixed society always disinclude white people? How come Caucasian people, who at this moment in time anyway are still the majority of the country, how come we're always disincluded from the conversation? Where's this fucking white privilege? Where's my check for my white privilege? Where's my fucking free cheeseburger? I don't get one. I've never had a benefit. I've grown up in a mixed society. I've never had any fucking privilege because of the color of my skin. So the fuck out of here with that argument. I will dismiss that right away. You start talking about white privilege, I don't want to hear it. You know what? If I go driving around in a gated community where I don't belong, being a white guy with tattoos, they know I don't belong there. They're going to pull me over. I used to do security in the projects in Cleveland, Ohio. If we seen a prim and proper suburban looking white boy driving through there, we followed them because they didn't belong there. So there's no privilege, and it goes the same way. I mean, that's part of being a police officer. Police officers are just like anybody else. They don't go out every day and think about killing people. Even if they did go out and think about killing people, not one of them wants to sit there and do the piles upon piles of paperwork that are involved with even pulling your gun on duty or using force. I mean, it's a ridiculous thought to think that white police officers thrive to try to kill black people. More white people are murdered or killed in incidents with police than black people at any time. You're using that as a narrative. It's the fucking socialist globalists like George Soros who pump money into all these organizations like Antifa and Black Lives Matter that are stirring you up. There's no real enemy. There are not groups of fucking right wingers marching in lockstep, Sig Heiling down the fucking street. That's a fallacy. They're not Nazis. Just because you don't believe in wide open borders and every third world person coming in and basically destroying Western civilization does not mean that you want to go kill 6 million Jews. So stop with your huge generalizations of everybody and everything. I'm an independent. I'm not, like I said, my previous show was about my problems with conservatives. So I'm an independent through and through. I have some liberal ideas, some conservative ideas, but stop stepping away from the point. If you're going to fight for justice, fight for everybody's justice. And feminists, what the fuck happened to you? Since when did, I watched a video not too long ago with a white male cross-dresser screaming at Rose McGowan that she didn't understand what it was to be a feminist because she's white. Are you that self-loathing and self-hating? Wear a dress if you want. I don't care. You're a fucking ugly guy. You could be an ugly woman. That doesn't make a difference to me. But what gives you the fucking right to judge Rose McGowan? Okay? I have no problem with women coming forward. I don't believe that men should be predatorial and fucking rape or take advantage of women who are in desperate situations or want a job or whatever. I mean, to a certain extent, some of them probably knew what they were getting into, but that doesn't ever justify the actions of fucking slimeball Jabba the Hutt, fucking Henry Weinstein, or fucking Mr. Rapist Jello Pudding Pot Bill Cosby, or any of these other assholes in Hollywood or in Washington who prey upon fucking people. Those are predators. Those are scumbags. Those are fucking sociopaths. What's scary is the fact that they got into power in the first place. But now, with the world wide open, they're going to, and I applaud the feminists for coming out against that. But don't spit in the face of a feminist because she's Caucasian and tell her she's privileged so she doesn't understand than only black feminists. And why the fuck would feminists agree to have somebody like Linda Sansor, who believes in Sharia law, believes that women need to have fucking laundry wrapped around their fucking head all the time and walk 5 steps behind men and be fucking stoned to death at their husband's approval. Why would you appoint somebody like that who wants Sharia law in America? Do you not understand what fucking women go through in Islamic countries that have those laws? Did you not pay attention to the uprisings in Persia where they wanted to cast off the hijabs and live free? What happened? They were shot down. Did we hear any of the feminists in our country saying a fucking word about that? Not a goddamn thing. What about the Yazidi women in northern Iraq and Turkey and Syria who were taken as sex slaves? Their husbands, their sons murdered. The females taken as sex slaves for fucking ISIL. What did they do? They were recaptured by the Iraqi National Force. What did they do? Did they sit there and cry victimhood and whine? No, they armed themselves and they went out there and they fought ISIS. A whole fucking platoon of women. A Yazidi tribe who, if you know anything about them, they're a 6,000-year-old religion. The only religion that's possibly older than them is the Hindu religion. Very ancient people. Not a word spoken about them, where they're actually literally being genocided in massive numbers. But the liberal media and the Democrats don't go to their defense. And you want to know why? You want to know why nothing was said? Because they are Caucasian. Because once again, they're white, so they don't count. Go ahead and kill the whites. And then we could talk about South Africa. Okay. Everybody applauded when Nelson Mandela, the communist terrorist who was put in jail, not for fighting apartheid, but for terrorist attacks. I'm fucking serious. Look it up. Was elected president and brought the African National Congress in. And the people he appointed after he passed away walk around and sing songs called Kill the Boer. The Boer is referring to the white farmers and the white community in South Africa. These people have been raped, murders, mutilation, cannibalism, any kind of sick fucking thing you can do. And these groups who go in there and kill these white farmers in Africa, there are pictures available with them with radar jamming equipment. So you're telling me that the fucking government doesn't sponsor that? That some random bush tribesmen came up with a fucking $50,000 radar jammer so that these people couldn't call for help when they were being fucking slaughtered? No. But what do we hear? Do we hear anything about South Africa? Are we taking any white refugees from South Africa? Fuck no. Because white people don't fit your fucking agenda. Because Caucasians are the simple people to blame for everything. We're not going to go too far into the identity politics, but not a word about South Africa, which people are suffering. People are being fucking genocided in a country that they started 125 years before they ever discovered the Bushmen. The Afrikaners discovered Cape Town. And 125 miles from Cape Town, they discovered some of the bush tribes. That the only reason the blacks came in were when the Zulu warriors decided to invade South Africa, murdering tribes along the way. They made a deal, and the Afrikaners actually bought that land from them. So they not only bought the land legally, and were the first people to actually settle the land, and begin agriculture in a dry, arid fucking place. But the African National Congress has passed laws that their land can be appropriated without compensation. And there's even members of the African National Congress that say we're not calling for genocide against white people now. Okay, if you really want to know what's going on, you should watch the video called Farmlands by Lauren Southern. I mean, she's put her own time and her own money and her own life at peril to fight this and to fight for these people who are being fucking murdered in their own country, and the world doesn't give a fuck. Are we taking South African refugees here? No. Are they taking them in Britain? No. Why? Because once again, Caucasian skin. Because Caucasian people who created this whole fucking system, we created your communism and your socialism. We also created your capitalism. We created society. We're more the first society. Maybe we didn't create civilization, but we created the societies which you live in. The fucking items, the iPhones that you carry around and film yourself punching Nazis on, were fucking all created by Caucasian people. So if you're that self-loathing, do yourself a favor and go jump off the fucking bridge. But don't ever point a finger at me and tell me I'm privileged because of the color of my skin. Because it's not fucking true. I don't treat people any different. Don't fucking treat me different. Leave me the fuck alone. Let me live my life. Let me say what I want to say. And if it hurts your feelings, turn it off. Don't listen. But if you want to come up and I go to a free speech rally and somebody punches me in the face, I'm going to knock your fucking head off. I don't give a fuck. And as you've seen in Charleston and some of these other places, yeah, fucking people are going to fight back against you. Just because you think you're right, you have the moral high ground, doesn't mean you're allowed to physically attack people. I'm not for or against the whole fucking, there were some radicals there. There were some assholes on both sides of the fucking fence. But Antifa's been attacking people at rallies, free speech rallies, right-wing rallies, independent rallies. They've been attacking people, throwing things, punching them, pepper spraying them. Yeah, you're going to pull the fucking radicals from society. What's it going to take? How many of you are going to have to be killed before you realize that fucking George Soros, who's doing it, he doesn't give a fuck about you. He doesn't care. You're being used as tools for a political agenda. A globalist political agenda at that. Yeah, the world would be fucking great if everybody's even and the dollar's worth a 20-cent peso. And we're all fucking standing in line for a month or fucking to get our food. We're spending more of our time standing in line for fucking necessities. Would it really be so great if fucking we run into fucking zoos and murder the animals and cook them like they're doing in Venezuela? Oh wait, the media didn't talk about that either, but trust me, that's happening. Your systems have failed. Socialism is a failed system. Communism is a failed system. Fascism is a failed system, all of the left wing. Capitalism, although not a great system, is a system that people can live within. I grew up in the 1980s and the 1990s during the height of capitalism. Life was good. Life wasn't a constant struggle. But now you get Democrats in charge and neocons like George Bush, and the quality of life just keeps dropping. The middle class has absolutely fucking disappeared. The American dream's fluttering away because they want to throw money at the problems. They want to create a bigger, huger government This isn't going to help. Come on, people. Wake up. Don't become part of the narrative. You don't have to have the hive mentality. You don't have to be told what to do. You don't have to have the government control. The government is not your mother and your father. The government is not your sponsor. Take some responsibility for your actions. Okay, that's my problem with the left wing. Sorry if this video went a little bit long, and I could go longer, but I won't. This is why I'm an independent. We don't need party politics. We need ideas. We need solutions, not spur of the moment reactions. Let's think a little bit, people. Let's think about the greater good of everybody, not just yourself. Thank you. I'm going to end the video here.